Happy Monday, or Tuesday maybe when you're watching this. Okay, so a couple of things before we get started with the lesson. Those of you that have been watching these videos, I really appreciate it. I hope they're helping a lot. And I have a surprise for those of you that watch this whole video. So at the end of the video, I'm going to give you some instructions, and if you follow those instructions, when you come to get your supplies and packet, which is this Friday, May 1st, then I'm going to have a surprise for you. So let's get started. We're starting with geometry today, which is so fun. The name of the lesson is Lines, Rays, and Angles. It's lesson 10.1, and you need to turn to page 549. Real quick, I'm going to ask you guys to go ahead and put your name at the top of your paper like you do in class. And it's not as important on this page, but on the assignment page, make sure you're putting your name on those, because when they come to me, they're in a big bunch, and I don't necessarily know whose work is whose. So please, on all the pages that you tear out, please write your name on those. Okay, so the essential question is, how can you identify and draw points, lines, line segments, rays, and angles? Okay, so let me make sure. I'm hoping you guys can see this okay. All right. So it says, everyday things can model geometric figures. For example, the period at the end of this sentence models a point. A solid painted stripe in the middle of a straight road models a line. So the next part is just some terms and definitions, and I've written them some of it down here too. So we start with a point, and notice that there's a letter A next to the point. That is how we label points or name them. So the way that you would read this, so let me back up. A point is an exact location in space. So the point on a pen or a pencil, something you can't really measure the length of or width of. It's just an exact location. You read this as point A. You write it as point A. An example is the point of a pencil. Okay, and then we move to a line. Now if you'll notice, a line has arrows on both ends. That means it continues to go in both directions. So a line is a straight path of points that continues without end in both directions. Now that's a little bit tricky, but if you imagine that a line is really made up of a bunch of points, okay? So we've got 2 points on this line, and that helps us identify it or label it. So it's line BC or line CB, because a line doesn't have a front or back. So you can read it as CB or BC. And then the way that we write a line in geometry to identify it is we make a mini line with arrows above it. The arrows above it is important. And then we write the letters underneath. And so that would be line BC or CB. Okay? And lines, the way I think of them is the arrows tell you they go on forever in both directions. So kind of like the lines on a road. They just keep going and going. You can't really see an end. And then we have line segments. Line segments do have endpoints. So they have a point on either side of them, and that helps us know that they do have a stopping point. A line segment is a part of a line between two endpoints. This example has the point D and the point E at the ends. And just like the line, it doesn't have a front or a back. So you could read this as DE, or line segment DE, or line segment ED. And just like with the way that we write a line, with a line segment, it has endpoints. So since we're writing kind of a smaller version of that, we don't really have to put the points on the end. You can see they just drew a little line segment. And then we write the letters underneath it. So line segment DE or line segment ED. Okay, but the important point is if it's the important part is if it's describing a line segment, we don't put the arrows on the ends. If it's describing a line, you have to put the arrows on the ends. And the last thing we're going to talk about is array. And array has a point on one end, but goes on forever in the other direction. So it's just got an arrow on one end. Array is a part of a line that has one end point and continues without end in one direction. So what I always think about when I'm talking about rays are sun rays. So sun rays start at the sun, that's their end point, and they shoot down towards Earth, and they keep going on forever. So this ray has the points labeled F and G, so you would say it as ray FG, or just like the line and the line segment, you draw to name or describe a ray, you put a little ray, a mini ray, and then the letters. Now, the ray does have a direction or a starting point, and that is the end point is the first letter that you put. So in the case of the ray, it always starts at the end point or like the sun, and then goes the direction that the arrow's pointing. So this ray can only be FG, not GF, because it has to start at the end point. And so if we go back up here to our examples, I didn't talk about a line segment. So this is a line segment, this is a line segment, this is a line segment. And then an example of a ray that you see in the real world would be a one-way sign. It's got a ray right there on it. Okay, so the first activity that we're going to do is draw and label line segment JK. So we know that a line segment has two endpoints. And so I'm going to draw a line segment between two endpoints, and then I'm going to label those points J and K. But since line segments can go in either direction, I'm also going to draw another one over here with the K first. K, J. Okay, so that is line segment JK. All right. Is there, oh, and they've got it right here. Is there another way to name JK? Well, we just did that. Okay, the other way to name it would be KJ segments. Because in line segments, you can, that's kind of sloppy, you can label either point first. Okay. All right, so moving on. It wants us to explain how line segments and rays are related. And we've already kind of talked about that. A line segment is part of a line, and then a ray is also part of a line. All right. So a line segment and a ray are both part of a line. All right, here we go. Now we're going to talk about angles. Now here's some angles I did over here. An angle is formed by two rays or two line segments that have the same endpoint. The shared endpoint is called the vertex. So I wrote it down here. Two line segments or two rays form an angle. The shared point is called the vertex. So for example, in this angle, there's the vertex. Here's the vertex. Here's the vertex. And the example they gave is an angle that's formed by two rays, but they can also be formed by two line segments. So similar to this, okay, with the vertex in the middle. Okay. So this angle could be named PQR or RQP or just angle Q. So that's how we name angles. So if we just have an angle and made up of two rays, and we have the points P, Q, and R. With an angle, you can start on any of the farthest points first. So you can go angle RQP, or angle PQR, or just angle Q. Any of those three names work. What you can't do is start with the Q. You can't go Q, P, R, because that doesn't follow our angle. So you have to go in order, either starting at the top or the bottom. So we've got PQR, angle RQP, or angle Q. And the way that you write that is you use this little mini angle sign, okay? And it could be angle PQR, angle RQP, or just angle Q works too. An example is a piece of pizza. All right, so if you imagine a P up there, a Q here, and an R here. You can name an angle just by the vertex, which is Q. When you name an angle using 3 points, the vertex is always the middle point. Angles are classified by the size of the opening between the rays. Okay. So here are the different types of angles And we have talked about these a little bit. Okay, so let me get rid of some of this stuff. Oh my, I left that up there too long. Okay. I don't think I'm going to use that orange marker anymore because it does not like to erase. Okay, all right. So here's our angles. A right angle, the measurement of a right angle is 90 degrees. So if we used a protractor, which is our tool that we use to measure angles, and we'll talk about that more later, this angle would measure 90 degrees. A straight angle is made up, if you think about it like this, a straight angle is made up of two 90-degree angles. So here's a 90-degree angle, here's a 90-degree angle. 90 plus 90 is 180. So a straight angle measures 180 degrees. An acute angle measures less than 90 degrees. I like to say they're acute little angle. And then we have obtuse angles. So we've got acute like this, little and cute, 90 degrees straight out and straight up, and then obtuse are the great big wide opening angles. All right, and those measure greater than 90 degrees. A lot of times in 90-degree angles, they will put a little square in that corner to indicate, or at the vertex, to indicate that it is a 90-degree angle. Sometimes we don't have tools to measure, but we want to show that it's a 90-degree angle, so we can just put a box in the corner. A straight angle forms a line. An acute angle is less than a right angle, and an obtuse angle is greater than a right angle. But important to note is it's less than a straight angle. So I did not put that up here. Greater than 90, less than 180. So if you had an angle that is 177 degrees, that's going to be obtuse angle. But if you have one that is greater than a straight line, so if your angle was kind of like this, and you were measuring this as the vertex, then that would be that would not be an obtuse angle because it has to be less than 180 degrees. Okay. All right. Classify an angle. So to classify an angle, you compare it to a right angle. So I'm going to take a piece of paper and fold it in half. And when you take a piece of paper and you fold it in half, it makes a perfect right angle. So you can use that to compare other angles. Okay, so here we go. On, like they've done on A, if you put the paper in the corner and you line it up with the bottom of the leg, you can see that there's extra space here, so that would be an obtuse angle. If I come over here and I go to the vertex, and this is a little bit hard, I'm too short, and I line it up with the leg, you can see through the paper hopefully that this is smaller than 90 degrees, so that would be acute. Over here, this one looks kind of like it's 90 degrees. But if we take the paper, we line it up in the corner, it's actually, the line comes through right there. So it's actually an acute angle. It's less than 90 degrees. And then over here, it matches up perfectly. So that one is 90 degrees, or a right angle. So on A, we have obtuse. On B, we have acute. C, we have acute. And D, we have right. Okay. Next page wants us to draw and label line segment AB in the space to the right. So we come over here and we draw A, B, and we can tell by how they wrote it right here that it's supposed to be a line segment because there's no arrow on either one of those. So AB is a line segment. Okay. Draw and label an example of the figure. Okay, so number 2 has arrows above both X and Y, so that means it's a line. So I'm just going to draw a line and put arrows on either end, and then my points, and I'm going to label them X and Y, or it could be Y and X, either one. Obtuse angle K. So we need something that is big and wide. And that wasn't very good. Okay. Okay, so that's a big wide angle. And they just named this angle by the vertex, which is K. And then right angle CDE. So right angle is going to have a little box in the center, and then we're going to have 3 points on this one, and it is going to be C, D, E, or you could also label it with the C here and the E here, okay? What's important is that the middle point, which is the vertex, is going to be D because D is the middle letter here. All right. Now they're giving us a figure over here, and they want us to name a line segment. There's quite a few of them there. You could name line segment TV or VT. You could name line segment VW or WV. Line segment WU or UW, and line segment TU or UT. So there's a lot of choices. I'm just going to, since I've been watching a lot of this lately, I'm just going to name line segment TV. Okay, now they want us to name a right angle. So remember, in a right angle, it's where we find the little box in the corner. So I see the box in the corner right here. So what I'm going to be naming is this angle right here. And so I can name that. It's going to be angle first, our little angle symbol. It could be angle TUV, or W, excuse me, TUW, or it could be angle WUT, angle what? Or it could be angle U. Any of those 3 answers are correct. All right, here is the on your own part. So if you want to pause the video, and while I get a drink of my tea, just like in regular class. and do these on your own and then come back and check and see if you got them right. I'm going to put all the possible answers if there's multiple answers just in case. Okay, so PQ shows a mini ray. And so I'm going to draw a ray with an end point and then a point down here. Now remember, rays only go one direction. So they start at the end point as the first letter. So kind of like they start at the sun. So we've got P will be the first letter, so it's going to go right here. And then Q will be the second letter. Okay? So next they want us to draw acute angle RST. Okay, so they've given us 3 letters. So I'm going to draw a little acute angle. I'm going to draw another one over here because this could have 2 different names. All right, so you could name this acute angle RST, or you could name it TSR. What is important again is that S is in the middle because this names your vertex. The middle letter names your vertex. And straight angle WXZ. So a straight angle is basically a straight line with a dot in the middle. And then here's our end points. And that's WXZ. Or it could be ZXW. Just as long as that middle letter is the middle point or your vertex. Okay, so then they're going to give us this figure over here and they want us to name stuff. Okay, so first they want us to name a ray. So there's a lot of them here. You could go ray BK, not KB, because remember rays only go one way. So you could go BK, you could go BA, you could go BJ, let's see, you could also go RP, RC, RQ, and there's even more than that. I'm going to stop listing them all. Whoops. Okay, let's try this. So you could go BC would be one. Not AC though, because A has an arrow next to it. I think that might be, so BC, RC, RP, RQ, and then the others that I named. I think that may be it. So let's see here. Yep, the rest. So we'll list them all. BC, R, P, R, Q, and RC. If you think there's another one that I missed, let me know. Okay. Number 11, name an obtuse angle. So I see right here B, so A, B, K, or K, B, A is obtuse. So is J, B, C, or C, B, J. Those are the main ones that I'm seeing right now. Okay, so you could have angle ABK or angle KAB, or sorry, KBA, or you could have angle JBR, or angle RBJ, or you could just have angle B, because angle B, well, no, you don't want to do just angle B, because B is also an angle for right here. So you don't want to do just angle B. Let me get that baby off of there. Okay. Because B is actually part of 4 angles. So B is part of this little acute angle. B is part of this little acute angle. So it's got 2 obtuse angles it's part of, but it's also part of 2 acute angles. Okay, they want us to name a line. Line AC or CA. Remember, when we're writing those down, we have to put a mini line above. CA or AC. Line JK or KJ. Line QP or PQ. I think that gets them all. So I got AC or CA, and I got JK or KJ, and PQ or QP. All right, I think I got them all. Name a line segment. Whoops. Okay. So, line segment right here, and I think that is the only one. So line segment BR or line segment RB, either one of those will work. But the others, even though they've got, if they've got an arrow next to them, they can't be a part of a line segment because that's not an end point. So, for example, BA is not a line segment because A has an arrow next to it. BJ is not a line segment because J has an arrow next to it. So the only 2 that don't have arrows next to them are B and R. Okay? Name a right angle. So we've got PRC or CRP. Angle PRC or angle CRP. Or that's all we're going to talk about for right now. And actually, when you have a T like this, if one of the angles is right, it actually means they all are, okay? Because they all form that straight line together. But we'll get into that later. Okay, and then name an acute angle. Well, we know from our discussion earlier that B is part of 2 acute angles. So we can go ABJ or JBA or KBC or CBK. So, got angle ABJ or angle JBA or angle KBC or angle CBK. All right. I think that is everything. So your assignment today is this page, page 553. I will tell you, let's see here. That number 10 is a little tricky. It says draw and label a figure that has 4 points, 2 rays, and 1 right angle. So you can just get creative with that, but it's got to be sort of like something like this, where you're combining the different parts of geometry that we've learned about today. Okay, we're at the end of the video. So if you can tell me in the comments on this video or email me at cpedersen@agpirates.com. You can email me. You can comment on this video. You can, any way you can get a hold of me. You can either tell me a real world example that we've talked about today that uses geometry, or you can make up your own. So look around and see things in the world that where you see lines, line segments, rays, acute angles, obtuse angles, right angles, straight angles. So give me an example, and through email or through the comments, of a real world example of the geometry that we've learned today, the geometric terms, and I will give you a surprise when you come to pick up your stuff either this Friday or May 14th. So May 1st or May 14th, I'll have a surprise for you. And after I get your comment or your email, I will respond and let you know what the prize is. So I hope you guys are doing well. I hope these videos are helping. I'm here for you. Just reach out if you need me. I love you. Mwah.